Hello, everyone. I am Ben Johnson, and this is the Perpetual Chess Podcast. Perpetual Chess is a weekly interview show where top chess players, authors, content creators, and accomplished amateurs discuss their careers and share stories and chess improvement tips. Perpetual Chess is a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, and we'd like to give a special thanks to our presenting chess education sponsor, Chessable.com. For more information about the show, you can go to perpetualchesspod.com. But without further ado, let's get to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Perpetual Chess. We are joined today by someone I am really excited to talk to because he has a wide range of experience in the chess world as a trainer, author, and, of course, player. He is the three-time Romanian national chess champion, 10-time chess Olympian. He's prolific and award-winning author, probably best of all known for Learn from the Legends, a book which won the 2005 Chess Cafe Book of the Year. It's been recommended on this very podcast by people such as Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, Grandmaster Noel Studer, among others. Rumor has it that the book was also recommended by legendary Grandmaster Bent Larsen, who is the subject of our guest's one of his latest books. And which is called Learn from Bent Larsen from Quality Chess. It deconstructs lessons from the legendary Danish player. He's also a longtime trainer, including working as the second of none other than Grandmaster Judit Polgar. So I can't wait to hear about his stories and chess wisdom. Let's welcome Grandmaster Mihail Marin to the show. Welcome, Mihail.
Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. Just to correct one issue, I have played in 12 Olympiads.
I knew I would get it wrong. I'm sorry.
I think that the information on Wikipedia is not updated.
Okay. Yeah, I should have known better. And they even stopped updating Olympbase, which, of course, is an amazing site, but it's hard to track this information down sometime.
Yes. Actually, in Romania, my former trainer, he is not with us anymore, Teodor Ghițescu, also Grandmaster, he also played in 12 Olympiads. But there is one player who played in more, 14, and that's Florin Gheorghiu, probably the supreme legend, chess legend in Romania.
And are you hoping to eclipse his record, Mihail?
Well, I never gave up hope. Actually, I should have equaled his record, but for some reasons, on two occasions, when I had the second rating in my country, they wouldn't take me into the team. That's okay, politics and things like that. But even now, let's say now my rating has dropped a lot, but it doesn't mean a thing. I mean, I'm always ready to. I believe there could be such good periods in your life, in your career, when you can do your best, and I find it yet so maybe 50-50. Okay. But I will never give up the thought that I should try to get one more Olympiad, and if I get one more, then I'm just one step away from 14.
Yeah, and I did enjoy, you did an interview on ChessBase a couple years back where you talked about how you met your wife, which I hope to eventually discuss. But one quote that resonated with me was you said, you're always a chess player at heart. You write books, you're a trainer, but first and foremost, you consider yourself a chess player.
Yes, I mean, writing books and articles. Actually, I have written roughly 20 books as author or co-author. For instance, I include the books, the 3 books by Judit Polgar, which
fantastic
were actually
books.
Working. It's not a ghost written book. We both worked together on it. Only that I'm not on the cover. I'm on the first page.
Yes.
So including this, it's roughly 20 books. The Larsen book is the last so far, but there is one more in the pipeline, Legends 2.
Yes.
And the books have been published in 8 languages, including Romanian, which is a bit surprising because there is not such a good market here. Russian, and even Mongolian.
Amazing.
Yes, Mongolian is somehow special. I mean, a rare language. I mean, nobody speaks Mongolian except for Mongolians, but they translated it.
They translated Learn from the Legends or a different book?
Yes. Learn from the Legends, yes.
Okay. And what languages do you speak, Mihail?
Well, my best languages are probably Spanish and Italian. But my main language now is Russian because I speak Russian with my wife all the time. But Russian is such a complex language that, even for a Russian, it's not easy to say that he or she speaks it perfectly. But okay, we speak Russian all the day. Then German was actually my first foreign language. I had some ethnical Germans, German friends in Brașov, in Romania, and I used to spend 1 month every vacation with them. So that was very good practice. Over the years, I lost a bit of it because I rarely played in Germany. But then when ChessBase invited me to make recordings in 2 languages, English and German, I recovered it partly by I always go like this. I mean, I start to read something really difficult, really heavy, and that was the Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann.
Okay.
950. It's a very difficult lecture. Actually, most of the Germans could not read more than 100 pages or 200. But I have read that for more than 1 year. With the dictionary, it's 950 pages. And with the exception of a kiss somewhere in the middle and a few deaths, nothing really happens. I mean, it's just, nothing happens. So, I mean, it's really hard lecture, but his sentences are so long, typical for German somehow, but they are so long, so well built, somehow shaped, that this is a good training for the language.
That's amazing. So, I mean, that's a funny story.
And I also speak some French, but my French, I mean, I'm not so proud about my French, but if I'm in France, I can, I can speak French. I mean,
I've traveled enough that when someone like you tells me that they don't speak much French, it basically means that they're fluent because you speak.
Yeah, but it's nothing compared with all the other languages.
Okay. So we've got German, Spanish, Italian, Romanian, Russian, English,
yes,
and a little bit of French. Am I missing any?
Yes. I mean, I can survive that. I can, but I need a few days to get into shape.
Okay, that makes sense. And what do you think, Mihail, of the possible connection between language facility, the ability to speak and learn languages well, and chess ability?
Well, I hope this would not offend the atheists, but in the New Testament there is a paragraph. I think it's in Corinthians, the letter to the Corinthians of St. Paul, and he mentions 3 special gifts. It's the faith. Above all of them, it's it's love. I mean, love in pure sense, but it's also languages. And actually, I have asked a priest once. He's a chess player, so I asked him, what he thinks about it. And I said, I don't know. It was just for practical reasons in that moment, because the apostles, they could talk to by magic to everybody. But I think that he didn't get it right. I think it's deeper than that, because when you speak several languages, you can see one issue, one piece of truth from different angles, because each language uses some different expressions, including play of words, or to define something, to describe something, and then I believe it gives you a deeper perception of things. And I think that in chess, first of all, there is the practical aspect. I mean, being grown in a communist country, of course, the best books my parents could afford were chess books were in Russian. Mm. I mean, the price is a book printed in Britain, for instance, would be like half a salary. But Russian books, Soviet books, they were rather cheap. And I had hundreds of them.
Wow.
And I started, during my army time, I started learning Russian with a chess book and a dictionary. Just memorizing a few pages, and I already had a few hundred words in my vocabulary. And then I developed it gradually. So there is this practical aspect that you can read. At that time, Russian was essential for me. Such fantastic books about great players. Their biography, I could read. I mean, it's also, you can learn from their biographies. You learn something, not only from the chess comments. So there is this practical thing, but okay, chess is. I like to make a paraphrase. Chess is like life is like a game of chess, and chess is life itself. They usually say something about this with theater. So, if something, this languages issue gives you a deeper perception in normal life, I assume it should also have some impact in chess, because it's kind of logic and harmony, and I don't think it helps less than mathematics, because in my opinion, chess is more about harmony than maybe mathematics are not so closely related. I don't know, but as Dr. Tarash, for instance, said, chess, like music and love, can make you happy. So it's obviously about harmony. Yes, it's about harmony. So languages is also kind of, each language has its own universe, and there is some harmonious beauty in it. So. No, for instance, as a chess writer, I believe that I am helped by the fact that I'm an engineer. I graduated from the Polytechnic Institute in Bucharest, but I never worked as an engineer. And still, for a writer, it's somehow important to have some logic, some system. Not only the language and the chess analysis and so on, but you have to build up a system. The moves are connected between themselves, and the games you are showing should be connected somehow. And I think that the technical spirit can help a writer. So yes, I believe that chess can be connected with several aspects of the scientific world, let's say, like engineering or languages, or maybe also mathematics, maybe.
Yeah,
because in mathematics there is only one truth.
Right.
Chess is maybe a bit trickier, but there are moments when, no matter what the engines say, there is only one truth. Somehow we lose, we miss this. We see that according to the engines, there are several equivalent continuations, but this is very relative. There is only one truth many times.
And do you think that sometimes the truth is not what the engine says?
Well, I have. There are some examples. For instance, there is a Breyer Spanish variation. When playing her match with Spassky in '93, Judit Polgar produced. Actually, it was not a novelty. It had been played in some obscure Soviet game, and her second left Sahis found it. It's the variation with B3. Black plays D5, and White plays Bishop G5. Maintaining the tension in the center. There are 4 pawns in the center in tension. H6, and the bishop goes to H4. And of course, Judit didn't consider the move G5 seriously, and Spassky didn't play it. G5 wins the bishop because the bishop has no retreat. And Judit won a good game, according to her analysis with left Sahis. And somewhere in around 2004 or 2005, Mamedyarov started playing this with black, and he always played G5. And he made some. He even beat Judit with that. And he said, I have analyzed many hours this position, and I'm absolutely sure that it's a draw. And of course, it was the computer who thought, now the engines give a +3 for white. And of course, it's completely losing for black. How can you play G5 to allow knight takes G5 and bishop takes, the sacrifice when everything is weak, and the bishop on C2 is already has the diagonal practically open. No, so with every new generation of programs and computers, we tend to believe that we master the truth, and it's very relative. I remember a game by Navarro against Wojtaszek. I think it was Navarro with white. He spoils somehow his structure. It's a queenless middle game. And then he goes with the king, somehow H2, G3, F4. Eventually, his king gets to H8 with 4 rooks on board and everything. The king grabs something on the way. Anyway, he wins. And this was his analysis. And actually, he's losing. When the king is somewhere on F4, black can win. It's not so obvious. And engines, I didn't check it with new engines, but at that time, it was his analysis. It was a losing analysis. The same as Mamedyarov. Also, there are variations. No, well, okay. There is also the famous case of the martial attack. It was Kramnik against Leko during the match. Kramnik seconds so that engines give a +3, but that was okay. Some 20 years ago, was it? Engines gave something like +3, and even though in some time trouble, Leko managed to find a win from the position with black, from the position he was supposed to resign. So now you can find examples, and yeah, you know, the fact that players of similar, let's talk about the elite, yes, similar chess powers analyze similar positions with computers of similar strengths with more or less the same engines, leads to some sort of depersonalizing chess. And they think they mastered the truth, but in 5 years, much of what they have played in the opening will be just, Whereas if you play according to the principles and to the common sense, as Lasker used to say, then you can have a perennial value. No, by the way, I believe that Carlsen, at least at some point of his career, but even now, I believe that he dominates his generation precisely because his mind remains somehow independent from the engines. Because we tend to become lazy. We just blitz 20 moves and then we wait for something to happen. I think that Carlsen, and I think that this is how he beat Anand in the first match when he became world champion. There was some talk that he had some training with Kasparov. Kasparov denied it, but he was in Norway before the match. And I think that, of course, Kasparov, okay, he tried once to train Carlsen, but his results became worse because Carlsen could not play the Kasparov chess. Kasparov chess is something too complex. Carlsen likes simple chess somehow. But I believe that if he advised him before the match with Anand, he told him how to stay away from the theoretical things and how to keep the position dry whenever Anand wants to complicate it in the opening. And actually, he played some rare lines in that match. And he won some equal positions just like this because they were too dry for Anand and just Carlsen's piece of cake. At least if I was to be asked, then I would have advised Carlsen to do that. And I would have advised Anand to take a second, not the theoretical Leko, not, I don't know who else was there. Okay, very good theoreticians. But no, some crazy guys like Jobava and Mamedyarov, Crazy, I mean, as a style. Not
right.
I don't have anything about them. But I mean, crazy chess guys to try to make it crazy because then Carlsen could be vulnerable. But Anand, no, he wanted to play safe and he lost the match. So, okay, I don't remember which was the initial question, but...
No, it's fascinating to hear you talk about chess and all that we can learn from Magnus in particular. We're going to take a quick break and we will be back with more from GM Mihail Marin. Perpetual Chess is brought to you in part by Chessable.com. Chessable is the leading chess education platform known for its proprietary move trainer technology, which uses spaced repetition to help you remember stuff. What kind of stuff? Well, tactical patterns, opening sequences. It can even help you drill specific endgames. And of course, they have a huge library of courses to help you do that. They have courses both from prominent grandmasters like Grandmaster Jordan von Forest, Magnus Carlsen, Sam Shanklin, and they also have great material for club players from club players. They have stuff for purchase, stuff you can check out for free. So be sure to go to Chessable.com and check out what they have that is new. You should know what that sound means. That's the sound of another sale on Shopify and the moment another business dream becomes a reality. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. So whether you're selling chess courses, chess boards, or something totally unrelated to chess, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person so you can focus on successfully growing your business. It covers every sales channel, whether it's in-person point of sale system or an all-in-one e-commerce platform. It even lets you sell across social media like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, packed with industry-leading tools ready to ignite your growth. It gives you complete control over your business. And thanks to 24/7 help and an extensive course library, Shopify is there to help you every step of the way. What's incredible to me about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify is there to empower you with the confidence and control to revolutionize your business and take it to the next level. So now it's your turn to get serious about selling to Shopify. So sign up for $1 a month trial period, shopify.com/chess by using the code chess. You know that they came from Perpetual Chess. So that's shopify.com/chess to take your business to the next level today. And we're actually recording this on January 30th, Mihail. So I wanted to pick your brain a bit because I've been chatting with FIDE Master Michael Ablin. We've done a couple podcasts about Tata Steel, which he was visiting every day. And listeners probably already know that Anish Giri won in dramatic fashion. But I was just curious if you got to follow that much and what you thought of the chess.
Yes, I followed most of the rounds as they were played. Some of them I had to check after, including the last one. I checked after. What can I say? Well, for Carlsen, first of all, with each new tournament, each new year, the pressure is somehow bigger because he has won almost 95% of the tournaments he has played over the past last 10-12 years. I lost the count. Maybe because of this, he gave up playing in the World Championship. Of course, I wouldn't have done that. But I can understand him. I mean, he's the best rated player. He wins almost everything. He's clearly the strongest for a long time. And then everything depends on a relatively short match, 12 games. I mean, if he loses that match, he's not the world champion anymore. So probably this is why his play during the last few matches was so uninspiring, because somehow the pressure, the fear of losing everything because of 12 games, somehow it might have been not fair for him. And what can I say? I don't remember which was the first game he lost, but I followed closely his game with Abdusattorov, with the Uzbeki star. Carlsen tried to do something which he does frequently. I mean, he knows that if he gets he takes some risks sometimes. He sacrifices for positional reasons, and he knows that if something goes wrong, the opponent would be afraid of winning against him. Afraid, I mean, not physically, but somehow. How can you think of beating Carlsen? Because he has beaten them. He lost to Giri, actually. That was also a very strange game. And Abdusattorov was he didn't have such complexes. He had beaten Carlsen in rapid chess in the Rapid World Championship when he actually became a champion, Abdusattorov. He played a good game. Then they reached the queen ending, and I believe that Carlsen went down too quickly in that queen ending. Somehow he played the move without giving a check, and when he got checks, the king didn't go where it should go. So that was somehow strange for me, because Carlsen is supposed to have a good endgame instinct, but maybe it was simply 2 days where he didn't feel okay. Even though with Giri it must have been something deeper, because he played some relatively rare line with black, with his king between the rooks, and then he starts jumping around with the knights, only with the knights. I mean, there are such things like development. And I don't know how long his analysis was, but Giri didn't do anything so special. I mean, he would do things that a normal master would do. I mean, rook b1 and b4, of course, you play that. Then he was accurate in the end, but almost every reasonable move would win after that. It was already... So I can understand what happened against Abdusattorov. Carlsen is not used to this kind of resistance and resilience somehow, and insistence of an opponent when he has an advantage. But with Giri, it's strange. Maybe it's something connected with what we were talking about the computers, whether the computers really possess the truth. So maybe yes. But at the same time, we can see that, why everybody should admire Carlsen. You may agree with what he's saying on publicly or not. You may like his style or not. But you must understand that he's a player. He's a player. I mean, every game for him is important, because he lost 2 games in a row. He was on -1. What was he? It was the end of the world, and he managed to tie for second. I mean, he's a player. He would go there and play and sincerely want to win, as if it was the last game of his life. For that, you have to admire.
Yeah,
and he's
it's impressive.
He's focusing, of course, for him, chess is really, this is why he wins many bad positions, equal positions, because he's there, he's playing, and of course that's very important.
Yeah, and now he says he's going to take a break from classical chess. He's mentioned that a few times, and as you mentioned, dropped out of the World Championship cycle. So, Mihail, I'm starting to worry that that he's receding into the background in classical chess, that we may not see him more than once or twice a year, and that even though he talks about reaching 2,900, I'm worried that he may go in the other direction. Do you think he'll be able to maintain his motivation at classical chess in particular?
Maybe he needs some. I didn't read the interview, but I understand that he would take a break. It could be 1 or 2 years. No, well, he's relatively young. Don't forget that Fischer had at least 2 complete breaks a few years. He didn't play anything for twice. It was, and then the first tournament he played, it was the USSR versus World match, and he beat Petrosian by 3-1. So I think Carlsen is similarly motivated as Fischer, and if he decided to take half a break like this, just for 1 or 2 years, he may come back. He's young. Because there is this pressure. And what can we say? Of course, he doesn't owe anything to anybody. To the public, to his fans. The same as Fischer didn't owe anything. Fischer did a huge effort to beat all the Soviets, to win 19 games in a row in Grandmaster company, and not just average Grandmasters, just top Grandmasters, no? And then to beat Spassky after giving him the odds of 2 points. And of course, this effort was too big for him, maybe, because he was just a human being after all. Strong physically, tall, fanatic, but maybe it was too much. And then, then it was, he could not play anymore. Of course, Carlsen's conditions were somewhat better, because he had a lot of support from his family. He had trainers, he had sponsors starting with a certain point. So Fischer was all alone. But still, I can imagine that if he wants to take a break, the chess fans, the public can just hope that he comes back. But he cannot be criticized, really. Whatever he does.
Yeah, it's his choice for sure. Although you refer to him as young, Mihail, and I agree that 32 is young by life standards, but by elite chess standards, do you consider 32 still to be young?
Well, it depends on everybody. For instance, don't forget that when he was over 60 something, Korchnoi was still in top 25. And Polgaevsky a bit earlier, the same, maybe top 10 he was. But Korchnoi, we already talked about, it was more than 60. It was somewhere in the late 90s. Korchnoi was born in 31. Yeah, so it was 65, 67 his age. So he was still in top 25 of the world, and these were new times. People started working with the computers. And actually, Korchnoi, I heard that he never really got friends with the computer. And then in the 70s, he won, for instance, this tournament in, where was it, Bill, where he beat Grishuk, Gelfand, Svidler. By the way, he beat Gelfand by playing the Slav defense with black practically for the first time in his life. And then with 80, he beat Caruana with black.
Famously.
Not beat, just smashed, pushing all the pawns. So, what do you mean? At 30, Korchnoi, according to his own confession, he understood that he was not playing the chess who would represent his personality. And he started to learn the ABC of chess again. And he considered that he was really strong really built up as a player when he was 40. And actually, he played the 3 matches with Karpov between the age of 43 and 50.
Yeah.
And came close to win at least once. So
close. Yeah.
Did
you ever meet Korchnoi, Mihail?
I have played with him 3 times. 3 draws.
Okay, let's hear the stories. Okay.
Well, actually, I have played with some world champions. Yeah, I played with Karpov, with Tal, with Spassky. Okay, with Khalifa, with Ponomaryov from the newer. But I mean, from the classical ones, I have played with some. And I must say that even though the game not always ended well for me, I could feel when they didn't like the position.
Mm-hmm.
I could feel they wanted to dissimulate it, but I could feel that they were uncomfortable. And actually, when I played with Karpov, okay, he eventually beat me, but he was in big danger. I saw that if he had been so transparent during his matches with Kasparov would have eaten him alive. Probably it was because he was already not so young. But Korchnoi was by 20 years older than him, and I played with Korchnoi after I played with Karpov. So it was a big, I mean, Karpov was maybe 50 or something. But Korchnoi was really, really getting old. First time we played in 2000 when he was 69, and then 2 other games. Last time he was 78, I believe. So I had each game has some small story. For instance, in our first game, I managed to get a good position, and now I saw that I could enter an endgame with an extra pawn. It's 4 against 3. For rooks, I have a knight, he has a bishop. He seems to be active, but it's temporary. Somehow he cannot threaten anything concrete. And I thought for a long time, and I didn't go for that variation. But he was so quiet. They brought him coffee. He said Dankeschön in German. He had his coffee. He was very... and I didn't go for that variation. And then suddenly the position became completely equal, and he felt so at home. It was a rook ending, and he started to make long, he became an artist, like a painter, with gestures, with long... It was a draw, but I fear that I might be worse, especially that he was a master of the rook endings. And after the game, he told me, you should have gone for that. I mean, if you don't win, if it's not winning, bad luck. And you know how much you can learn from such a... but I could not feel that he was afraid of that. Maybe that was... because it's a simple combination. It's a 2-move combination. I get opponent. The only question is if I have chances to win the endgame or not. Yes, but okay, I don't have anything better. And there are some winning chances there. The second game, it was a tournament. It had all the games had to be played with the Catalan opening. It was the thematical. So I play with him, and I have white. And he plays some old-fashioned line, and he plays some queen c8, some sort of passive move. By the way, after I came to the conclusion that in those years he didn't remember anything. He was just playing from his understanding, because also from the first game and the second game, I'm sure that he didn't even in openings he had been playing all his life. I'm sure that after move 7 or 10, he barely remember, but he knew how to play. That was helpful.
Yes.
So okay, I get a slightly better position, but at some point, and he's a bit like this. He was the kind of player who'd make small, sudden movements during the game when it was exciting. No, it didn't really disturb, but you could feel that he was like walking on something hot. And then I understand that he solved all the problems, and I offered a draw. He didn't answer. But suddenly I was invaded by some sort of sensation like peace, every like sunset, peacefully, and I understood that was him. Now he was sure that he solved his problems, and he started playing. Okay, I had to be careful not to be worse. It was a draw. We started to analyze, and I said, okay, maybe I offered the draw too early. I said, and he did something like, oh, like if he hadn't heard me. And I know that he used this thing. There is an anecdote that he was playing in Bucharest. He had won the tournament with big distance, but there was still one round to go. And he plays with some Cuban guy or whatever. And the Cuban guy offers a draw 3 times, and on move to 23, he resigns. Korchnoi doesn't answer. And the guy said, okay, but why were you playing for a win if you had already won the tournament? There was no rating in those years. And Korchnoi said, oh, but you should have offered. Oh, but I have offered 3 times. Oh, I didn't hear. So, and no, the last game is the funniest. I was again with White. And he played an interesting novelty, and the game was very complex. But then, I had just written an article about Korchnoi's technique in endings with 2 bishops versus knight and bishop, eventually with rooks on board. And I get one of those positions. I had the 2 bishops. So I wanted to show him that I had learned something from his games and that I can win this endgame. But then at some point I do something and I allow him to exchange the rooks. He takes my rook and offers a draw. Of course, I didn't want to. It was still better for me somehow optically. But for politeness, I said, I would like to play. And after 1 minute, of course, I had to take the rook. I said, I would like to play. And then I took the rook. And he said, you would like to play. It was my precise word. You would like to play, huh? Our looks. We looked into each other's eyes. And okay, I think he wanted to say, how do you dare, piece of whatever, to play against me if I offer a draw? But of course, that would not stand the situation. And then he changed the subject. Then you should tell something to me. It's against the FIDE rules to move without answering anything. Of course, that's not true. And I told him, but I told you that I would like to sing and I would like to play. You told me, huh? Okay, in this moment, the arbiter approached. So the discussion was over. Okay, then he sings for 45 minutes. It was after the control. And he makes a move, and it looks like a risky move, but I think for 45 minutes, and I understand that I have nothing, and actually I have to make a concession not to be worse even. And I take on g6, and I offer a draw. And he answers immediately. And now I start to think, well, okay, he wants to prove me a few things. First of all, that he doesn't have, because his position was still horrible. I mean, on 3, he was staying on 3 ranks. He was dominated, but okay, little material, so no chance to win for me. Yes, and he wants to prove me several things. First of all, that he doesn't need to be offered a draw to make a draw in this position. Secondly, he wanted to prove that he didn't hear me the first time, which is because he answered with my own words. I'm sure he heard me, and I said, okay, he's not young. He must be hungry. His wife was waiting in the playing hall, Petra, to go to dinner. Next day was the last round in the morning, so he has all the reasons to accept, but he wants to prove these principal things. So this is why he's still here with me. Okay, everything very nice, but I'm in the same situation. I'm also hungry. I also have a role in the morning. My first wife was also waiting for me in the playing hall. So I cannot offer a draw again because that would be against the rules. So then I found some No, I could win a pawn with opposite color bishops, obvious draw, but then he would ask, what are you playing for? So I found the move repetition. And I told him, okay, it's 3. Oh, but okay, of course yes, but I have offered. I didn't hear that. And no, after that we had dinner together. He even said cheers to me in Romanian. I drank a glass of wine. He didn't because he was with Petra. So I'm sure that if he was alone, he would have taught me 1 or 2 things about wine and not only.
Amazing. So funny.
No, I mean, sorry that the story was so long, but each game had something. I mean, he was really above most of them all. I mean, psychologically and
yeah.
I could not. I mean, even if I could read him, what can you do? I mean, you are somehow helpless, no? Even if you read him, if you don't go for the line with an extra pawn, then it's no use. I mean, so you're asking whether Carlsen is young with 32. I mean, okay. The last game, this conflictive game, okay, he was 79, and he was intentionally sitting there with me just to prove something. You understand that it was late.
Yeah, I don't know if Carlsen has that in him though to be doing that at 79. But it's an amazing story, and like you say, it really illustrates if you sit down to play Korchnoi, you've got to be ready for psychological warfare. So I'm curious, Mihail, how did you feel? Like if you were especially as you played him more than once, when you see that you're playing him, how did it feel?
No, of course. There was a time, short one after the communist times, when I had some problems when playing with players who were the main heroes in the Soviet magazines, for instance, or like this. But by the year 2000, when I started, after which I had these games with Korchnoi, I didn't have this complex. So for me, it was just happiness and joy to play against such an idol. And actually, there are only these 2 or 3 minutes which are conflictive.
Okay.
Otherwise, he was very correct. I cannot say that I was affected by this incident. It was my thoughts were just as I told you. I mean, look what a guy! What a guy at 78! He wants to prove something, no, I would say that no. Also in analysis, he was very radical. For instance, that Catalan game, he would very quickly conclude, no, this is lost. It was not lost. It was better for me a bit, but because it was lost for him. I mean, he was
Right.
somehow he didn't want to analyze that for him. And also he had the habit of saying, let's try this move, just in analyze. So I mean, so that he cannot be attacked that his move was stupid or whatever. No, he the last game we didn't analyze because it was too late already. But I not with all the champions did I have such. For it, of course, Karpov was winning from the beginning after he beat me. No, of course, but I knew that he was shaking of fear at some point, and he was in some big danger at some point. But of course, afterwards, he was winning all the way. Of course, no, that was typical for him. And I don't think it's. Somebody told me, somebody from the elite, that okay, what a bad guy. I mean, okay, it was something negative, this Karpov, because after each game he wants to analyze, and he would not somehow he would analyze, and he would try to prove that he was better. And actually, I think that the man simply loved chess. And okay, probably it was also a psychological trick. He wanted to keep his clients. I mean, if he beat somebody, or even if he didn't beat, he wanted to prepare him for his next loss somehow. But actually, he was very good in analysis. The problem was not that he wanted to prove that he was better. The problem was that he was beating almost everybody in analysis. I mean, he kept his focusing, the same focusing level of focusing as during the game. And I don't think, I mean, okay, do the same if you think it helps, but not everybody can. So for Karpov, chess was really serious. Only that he was not a scientist like Korchnoi, but he was a player. He had some talent, some ease to, I mean, he said, okay, I see this idea, I believe in it, it should work, and goes there. He wouldn't care if it's the objectively strongest. He would just go there and he would do it very well. He'll just move well, move after move. And apparently, before his first match with Karpov, Kasparov got the following advice: never analyze with him after the game. He would depress you. He will kill you. You would not have any chance. And I think, yes, it was. I don't know if Karpov was doing it intentionally, but maybe it was also studied. But I think he simply loved to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He simply loved to just play, let's play the game again and again and again. I mean, okay, I give you another chance. Actually, I think it's a beautiful way of relating to chess.
And we're recording this, Mihail, on Boris Spassky's 86th birthday.
Oh, really?
He's still around, although Emil Sutovsky tweeted that he's not in the best of health, which,
but it's a long time. It's a long time. He had, it's 15 years that he has been in the wheelchair, yes? Or
Yeah, unfortunately. Any stories to go with your game or games against for the former world champion Spassky?
We played a game, only one game in the high league of the French team championship. It was top 12, I believe, called them. It was I was playing with black. I played the Benoni, and he replied with a very aggressive 3-pawn attack. But after the opening, he offered a draw, so the game lasted half an hour. And then we were analyzing for 3 hours.
That's great.
And he told me that, look, I have never lost interest to chess. But little by little, okay, of course, after I lost to Fischer, well, he was still a candidates finalist in 77. He lost to Korchnoi. And he played for the Soviets at the Olympiads a few more years. And he was playing elite tournaments. But he said that, little by little, I love chess, but it's now I like more to analyze, and then we happened to be in the same team. He came to our team in Belfort when we qualified for the Europe Cup in Linz, Austria. And then I remember that we had long chats, with the whole team or only me with him. He was he was always talking about principal things. He would not criticize moves or other things or games. He would just be disturbed if some young player of the moment he would make a gesture like this with his fist. He would just raise his arm like this. I don't know how to describe it without video, but just like lifting heavy, weight. That you have, he was very sporty. He used to be an athlete during his youth. So I mean that you have to keep the level, the principal level. You have to be true to yourself and to the correct things. So, yes, my contacts with him were not so intense, but okay, he was a pleasant companion, of course. I mean, okay, it's maybe it's not polite to say that. Okay, I was his companion, not
right.
But I mean, okay, it was very pleasant to be around him. And,
and there's lots of stories like that of short draws later in his career. But what a legend!
Yes. With Tal, I had. I played a game with him, but that was only that, okay, he offered a draw, then I offered a draw, then he offered a draw. Okay, actually, it was not such a bad game. It was a draw in Marin Interzonal, but then I was happy to spend a lot of time with him in 92 in Sevilla. It was just half a year before he died, or maybe less. He died that same year. And we were invited by the organizer to these marisquerias, or tapas, this typical...
nice. Yeah.
Yes, and he won a game against Spanish international master. He later became a grandmaster, Mario Gomez, and it was a brilliant win, and it got the beauty prize, the best game prize in the tournament. But Tal was so unhappy because he had reached a fantastic positional advantage on both wings, with a blocking knight on c5, with some initiative on the other. It was a dream. I mean, he played really superb chess. His health was bad, but he played a very good strategy game. And then what does he do? The knight from c5 goes to g5 to prepare a combination with a queen sacrifice, and eventually it worked. But actually, it should have lost a pawn if his opponent reacted correctly. And Tal was so unhappy. He said, "What? I spoiled the game." Because there is a phrase by him that when he was 40 or something, I could teach one or two things to that Tal who became a world champion, the young Tal. I could, and now he was, talking to his younger himself, who eventually came out after he played a brilliant strategy game, came out to do something, just for the beauty. And I admire him because, the man could just relax. He was only 54, I think. 54, 50. He's born 37. He had not turned 55 yet. But he was ruined. Physically, he was ruined. So, it was basically an old man. I mean, he could relax. Look, I've won a beautiful game against a young guy. I'm still good. I can still do the trick. But no, he was angry because he had played against the truth. Mm-hmm. The result was not so important for him.
I guess that's why he reached the level he did. That sort of attitude.
Yes. Actually, he had some good times in the late 70s. He was Karpov second in Baguio during his match with Karpov's match with Korchnoi. And Karpov wrote that apparently for both of us this was very profitable because they somehow completed each other. And in that year, Tal won the Leningrad Interzonal with distance margin of 3.5 points, I believe. Of course, these were long tournaments, but not like nowadays. But okay, 3.5 points, It's something like Fischer kind of.
Dominant.
And then he shared the first place with Karpov in Montreal. This was the star tournament. It was 10 players, double round robin. But with the exception of Korchnoi, who was boycotted, and making all the strongest players in the world played. So, in 79, he was not looking young at all. He was 42 only, but he was not looking young at all. Yes, 42. I mean, he was already, he had made the first step to the end. Yes, but he played very well. Then later he won the Blitz, the second World Blitz Championship in St. John, 88, when Kasparov got eliminated in the semifinals or quarterfinals, I don't remember. So, he was self-critical, but also could not control his genius, his instinctive, manifestations of his genius.
Yeah, he lived as he played.
Yes.
A bit reckless. Well, Mihail, we need to take a break to hear from our sponsors, but this has been amazing, and I look forward to more stories in a moment. Perpetual Chess is brought to you in part by Aimchess.com. Aimchess has an algorithm that gathers your games from the major chess playing sites like Chess.com and LiChess, and then gives you actionable intel on how to improve your game. It evaluates different phases of the game, tells you how you're doing with certain openings, and they're constantly rolling out new features to make Aimchess even better. Some of the new ones include a blunder preventer drill that you can do, and they've now got blindfold exercises where you can work on your chess visualization skills. So be sure to check out Aimchess if you have not already, and if you decide to subscribe, then use the code PERPETUAL30 to save 30%. You can also click on the link in the show description to aimchess.com. And we are back. And Mihail, there's so much I'd love to hear from you, but I've got to start with the biggest highlights, which of course is, as you alluded to earlier, you've had quite a fruitful collaboration with Judit Polgar. I'm a huge fan of her 3 books with Quality Chess. I even did a podcast with Jen Shahadi about how I beat Fischer's record, and obviously a fan of hers just generally. So let's start at the beginning. What was your first encounter with the Polgar sisters?
Well, I saw them for the first time in '88 at the Thessaloniki Olympiad. It was also their first Olympiad when they won the Polgar sisters with Ildiko Madel. They won the Women Olympiad. But I didn't speak to them. Then of course, and then in 1990, I won my group of the zonal tournament. So I qualified for the second. It was in Stara Zagora, Bulgaria. I qualified for the interzonal for the second time. I did it 3 years earlier. And in that tournament, in my group, Zhuzha was also playing. Our game ended in a draw. But anyway, I think they had many sparring partners over their years. And as a rule, they would choose some player who proved something. And two weeks later, I played in Budapest. It was a strong open. I was not in the best shape after. I was so happy that I won the zonal tournament, my group, and that I got to the interzonal. That I was a bit below my level, but in the last round I was playing with what's his name? I forgot his name. Russian, grandmaster. Barsov. He was not a grandmaster then. I had played the Benoni and I had 4 pawns for the exchange. I mean, it was winning. And then I was working while he was thinking. It was the last round. It would have yielded me a prize and not such a bad result. And then I see Susan Polgar. And she comes to me and she asks me, by the way, after the tournament, do we want to stay with us for a week or 10 days and just to play chess? Of course I exchanged a few words with her after our game 2 weeks earlier, but I even remember that there was a free day in Stara Zagora. There was some party or whatever, and I know that my older colleagues, convinced me to invite her to dance in Stara Zagora, which is completely stupid, of course. I approached, I said, she made some scared gesture, of course. I mean, it was somehow very stupid because, okay, we're chess players there, but okay. So basically, we never spoke before that, more than a few words. And then, of course, I accepted the invitation. I was so happy that I got mated in 7 moves from my winning position. But then I visited them for 3 times in 1990, between one week and 10 days, something like that. And I was analyzing with Susan Zsuzsa. But we were playing blitz, all of us. I mean, in the breaks, I would play with Judit. I remember that at that time, Zsuzsa was really strong in blitz. She should dominate me. Okay, not by a big distance, but okay, she was stronger than me in blitz. With Sofia, I had to be careful, but I was playing better. And with Judith, I just had to keep the position close. And but she was young. She was 13, 14, okay.
Right.
Going on 14. No, she was very strong, actually. She was higher rated than me. But in blitz, if I just blocked the position, she would just kill herself. So, no, and of course, we became very close friends. We were telling jokes. Okay, then we lost contacts for some years, for many years. And then around 2000, 2001, already Judith wrote to me whether I want to come to Budapest just to train. And then we started seeing each other 2-3 times a year. Sometimes we would analyze openings, but mostly end games. We found many interesting things in known end games, many new things. We changed some evaluations, at least from practical point of view. And then there was this moment. Of course, we had a very friendly relation. And then there was this moment when she gave birth to her first child, Oliver. That was 2004, I believe. And this caused her a break of 14 months from tournament play. And then before her first tournament after this break in Vaikanze, 2005, she asked me whether I wanted to be her second. And of course I accepted. I mean, okay, that was no matter how much we had worked together and how good friends we were. I mean, to be second of an elite player, it was something special. No? And she confessed to me that, all these guys, they don't like to have a woman among them. They would like to kill me now after 14 months. So I need somebody who is close to me, psychologically, emotionally, to stand this. And actually she did well. She won 3 games and lost 2, so +1. That time, okay, Vaikanze was... Nowadays they are... not all the very best are there. They choose the stuff to be interesting somehow. They invite from India, to have a big representation of interesting player. But at that time, okay, almost everybody was playing. Kasparov didn't play that. He retired soon after that, after Linares in the same year. Yes, so actually, yes. Then we went to Sofia, the tournament in Sofia. And actually, she reached her highest position in the ranking with these 2 tournaments, highest position ever, number 8th place. After these tournaments, where I was her second, of course, it's okay. Of course, I probably also helped her by giving a second point of view with chess wise, no. But I believe it was more because I somehow let her just dictate. I mean, okay, if she felt like doing this, we would do this. If she felt like preparing a lot that morning, we'd prepare. If after a loss she would like to go for shopping, we just go to shopping. She would ask me, "Oh, doesn't this look cute on me?" I said, "It does, but it's so expensive. Of course, we shouldn't buy that." So, I mean, this kind of thing. I mean, whatever she said, I would find something in. So I think this is because when you are playing, you don't need somebody to contradict you.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you say something very stupid that you want to play with black E4, H5, D4, A5. then of course you have to shout to the player, no? But of course such thing would never happen with Judit. So yes, and after that we transformed this collaboration. I mean, we wrote these 3 books together. They lasted a few years actually. I went many times to Budapest. She even came once to Bucharest for 2 weeks. So yes, and now during the last Olympiad, I was her partner in commenting in the commenting job. Yes, we still have contacts. Actually, we are driving a lot, and sometimes we stop by her place when on our way to Europe. I mean, to Western Europe. So, but okay. We really worked a lot on chess, I mean, and in the end game, I think I might hurt her.
Yeah, she talks, of course, in her books about having to learn the end games. I mean, of course, she's such a gifted tactician that to give her a flair in the end game, but more on the
but she as a child already she had a huge end game culture.
End game studies, right?
Yes, studies and also theoretical positions.
Oh, really?
No. She with 10 years should know almost everything what is basic or so. No, but we're analyzing more complex endings.
Okay.
And you know what surprised me to her that I would not name now anybody, but there is some strong player. She had been analyzing with him, and she said, "Well, of course, this guy has a concept. He understands chess, while I'm only a practical player." And I told her, "What do you mean? I mean, okay, this guy have +2 against him, and it could have him +4. I mean, the guy is a practical player. I don't think he understands chess so well. You shouldn't underestimate yourself." Because what was my feeling when analyzing with Judit sometimes? I consider myself a tricky player. So I make a move. It creates some ideas, whatever, but it has some trick. So I play at 2 ends. She would think for half a minute. She would make a move. She would look at me. And I would know that she read my mind and that she avoided the trick. And she parried the threats and kept the trumps of her own position. And somehow I understood that she was waiting for me to acknowledge that. So that was the kind of, I mean, she has some mixed concrete and abstract thinking, I believe. Only because she was so gifted, talented, I don't think it's right for her to say that she was weaker strategically.
And Mihail, I've been preparing a podcast with my friend Dr. Christopher Chabris on San Luis 2005. Been reading the excellent quality chess book, and of course, your name comes up in that as you got to travel to Argentina with Judit for that tournament. Obviously, the tournament didn't go the way she wanted, but it's the pictures look amazing. Like the chess was amazing. So I'm curious what your memories of that tournament in particular are.
Yes, okay. Judit was probably overtrained there. I mean, she should have taken a break 2 weeks before the tournament and just go somewhere with her husband to, forget about chess. But she also had her first child, Oliver, who was 1 year old already. Okay, a little bit more. And also, okay, actually, I advised her to change one of her openings with black for something with the same move order. But I mean, apart from the Najdorf, she also used to play the Paulsen with knight c6, queen c7, and a6. Okay, they call it Taimarov, but Taimarov is actually something different, knight g7. And I analyzed something which starts with the Paulsen move order for her. And reaches the Scheveningen after avoiding the Keres attack and some other dangerous things. And actually, it was quite viable. And I spent a lot of time before the championship to do that. But then an older second of her advised, "Oh, but why do you need that? You have the Najdorf and the Paulsen, whatever." And it started badly because she lost 2 Paulsen games in a line that she had prepared, but which was a little bit suffering. At some point, black plays knight c6 with the bishop on b4, knight c6, e7. I mean, it doesn't look like chess somehow. It looks like an experiment, but not somehow. And okay, Anand and Leko just just beat her. And of course, okay, she won a brilliant game with an analysis she had done without me against Kazimjanov. But that was somehow the only real reason for joy. So it was a pity because that was a special event for her. I mean, the only woman to have played in the final tournament of the World Championship. Okay, being in top 8 in other times would have meant to be in the candidates matches. Now it would be to be in the candidates tournament. So it's anyway something not easy to achieve. But she blamed it on this thing that she was too tired of chess. She didn't relax before, and it was also not so inspired that she was repeating that opening which she had played before, and the opponents obviously prepared against.
Right.
The Shevenigon would have come as a surprise somehow. I mean, for 2 games it would have been okay probably, but okay. But yes, and probably it was also, she also made a big effort. I mean, she was playing professional chess for how many years? I mean, starting with a young age. And now times have changed, and this opening preparation, I mean, okay, your genius is good, but you have to put up so much opening preparation with the engines that for a player grown in the classical times, it's a bit different. So
it sounds like you weren't surprised when she retired.
Actually, she told me in advance a few months before. No, because I know that she was. She retired after losing to Sam Shankland, but it was not because of that game. She told me 2 months before the Olympiad that after the Olympiad she would retire. I was, of course, disappointed, but I could understand her because she had dropped from the elite. She was something like top 50 or maybe not even already. Top 7, number 7 in the world. I don't remember, but she had dropped massively. But the point was that she just fulfilled. She had just been the highest rated woman for 25 years, a quarter of a century, and she considered that would be a good moment to just quit. Because if you had such a rating of top 50 or top 70, you don't get invited to top tournament. It means you don't. It's not the same feeling, You have to start playing open tournaments. When the first round you may play against a relatively weak player, maybe the first 2 rounds. Of course, your fee would be not that high. It would be like losing money, in open tournaments. And you are not sure that you are gaining your rating back because of the big rating difference. I mean, you are 2670 or whatever she had then, and you play with an average of 2400. I mean, that's not funny. And it's risky. It's more risky than I understood her that the charm of chess was not the same when after dropping from after having played with Kasparov, Karpov, Korchnoi, Spassky, Timan, Topalov, Kramnik, all the very top guys. I mean, you cannot start playing in open tournaments. Somehow it's painful.
Yeah.
Well, Korchnoi didn't have that problem, but but Judit is more equilibrated as a woman. I mean, she's a good mother. She with Korchnoi, his second wife was he had a son from the first marriage, but I don't think he had much contact with him. And his second wife was dedicated to him. I mean, they together had only one purpose, even when he was 70, that he gives his best at the board. So chess was really his life. While Judit, she could also enjoy life. Her husband has a job of himself, while with Korchnoi things were different. So Korchnoi didn't shy away from playing in open tournaments, of course.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, her kids were pretty young at the time, and that certainly changes one's priorities. And let's finally discuss your books a bit, Mihail.
Okay.
So you tell this story in the Bent Larsen book that you narrowly missed the chance, that he was a hero of yours and you narrowly missed the chance to meet him?
I think I know, but I think I never met him. I was convinced that I saw him at some Olympiad, but maybe he was there in '88 as a correspondent. I don't know, because I have it in my head that I have seen him, but he stopped playing Olympiads in '72, I believe, or '74, and I played my first Olympiad in '88. So also he stopped playing interzonals long before I started playing. I mean, my first interzonal was 87, and his last one was maybe 1779, maybe, I think, Leningrad. So, no, of course, in my eyes, he had some handicap because when I was 6, he lost to Fischer 6-0. And a few years after that, a book was published, which, it was not a Romanian book. It was signed by Polichroniade, but actually it was all the comments were copied from the Soviet magazines. But anyway, it was in Romania. And I knew the games of the match. And I had my feelings, some fascinating chess, but Fischer was the hero. So then of course, I saw some games of him, and I had this general perception about him that he was an original strategist and so on. But somehow before writing this book, I never get to come so close to him. And I wrote it during the pandemics. I was sitting in the garden, and I played over, I don't remember how many, nearly 150 games of his on the chessboard. Making pen notes and everything, trying to understand everything with my head and so on. I mean, during the pandemic, there was a lot of time for everything.
Right.
You could not travel. So, and of course, then I checked with the computer, and I chose only those examples which are not attackable with the engines. And I came to the conclusion that, the reason that he never became a world champion was not that his chess was unsound, not because he took risks, because he had this art of calculated risk. But he was not even in his performance. He could play fantastic games, but he could also play some weaker games. Maybe sometimes trying to play interesting and risky, he crossed all the lines. I don't know. Or maybe his physical shape, his physical energy was not enough to... But for instance, when he lost the candidates match against Tal himself explains how that happened. Tal was leading in the match, and actually he was playing well, and then his wife Larsen's wife was his second there. I mean, she was not a strong player, but she knew some chess. And she had to return to Denmark. And then Tal eventually won by +1. So actually Tal writes this. Of course, if for a Soviet, this would be unthinkable to throw away the match for some... No, I can understand him. Because, for me, such things are important. So maybe he was a bit too human, let's say. No, I mean, maybe he had this genius, the capacity, the intellect, the culture, the desire, but maybe his physical energy and focusing were not always the same. It's a pity, but he was still a great player. I mean, he's the first chess Oscar winner in 67 or 68. He's the first on the list. And actually, after that, with the exception of Korchnoi, they are the only two players not to ever become world champions who won the Oscar. At least until 80 something when it got a break. After that, they started to do it again, but it was this classical chess Oscar. So only Fischer, Karpov, Kasparov, such guys would win the Oscar year after year. So
we have a related question, Mihail, from a supporter of the podcast, Igor Feinstein, who writes in to ask. He said he has Bent Larsen's book, Bent Larsen's Best Games, Fighting Chess with the Great Dane, which contain 120 of his best games annotated by him. And he wonders if there's an overlap between your book in terms of the games covered and what your book adds, and what level the book is for, which I could help answer. But he says mainly he wants you to convince him to buy your book, which I definitely recommend it.
Well, actually, I have... there are several versions of his game collections. There is one of them published in 1969 and translated to Russian. And this had been translated to several other languages. Maybe some of them cover a slightly longer period. And then I have a book published in Spain by the editorial Chessy by Alfonso Romero, which is a collection of Larsen's articles, mostly with his games, but not only, in the times he was living in Gran Canaria. This is actually a quite thick book. So these I used for I played over all these games, but what I cannot say. Probably there are also some games which are not published in these books. I'm sure. No, I'm sure there are, because at least in the chapter, Bent Larsen as a candidate to the world title, because there I also show some of his losses. And let's say 75% or more of the games in my book, I cannot say now precisely, are to be found in his books. But I have planned the book as a manual, and it's not made by years, but by themes, chess themes. Like even this thing, taking risks, is one of the issues. And hypermodern chess and classical chess and tactics, and also in the end game, he was. So I put them together, and of course I also correct many of his analysis. Actually, his analysis were reasonably correct, but I also developed them. Sometimes he's optimistic, but in principle, that's already like Karpov. I mean, if he believes in this, you cannot prove to him that his position is not better. And yeah, I mean, okay, there's a lot of new material. And I think that if you love Larsen, the book can be pleasant.
Yeah, I agree. I learned a lot. And the book is available on Forward Chess, we should say. And I wanted to ask you, of course, about, I was excited to see on the Quality Chess website, they mentioned that Learn from the Legends 2 will be coming out. So I'd love to hear a bit more about that as well, Mihail.
Well, actually, Larsen's book was meant to be one chapter of Legends 2.
Oh, that's funny. That makes sense.
But it was the pandemics. There was a lot of time, and I wanted to. I played over all these 150 games or whatever, and then it appeared that I had written something like 200 pages or 180, and that didn't look like a chapter. And then they told us, okay, just write another, I don't know, 180, or a little bit less, and then we make a book out of it. And let me see if I remember all my because these I also the Legends 2 I also wrote during the pandemics. So okay, one of my all-time favorites is Lajos Portis. Actually, I played with him 3 games, and he was getting less and less strong because of age, and I was getting stronger and stronger. But if you look at our 3 games, game by game, he won easier. In the last game, he beat me with black in 20 moves or something. So, and the only real fight was the first game, actually, when I was young, and he was actually still at least with one foot in the elite. He became a candidate for the 7th or 8th time that year. Yeah, of course, with Portis, it's hard to express my feelings, but probably it starts with the way he was looking. Always elegant, he had some class of his own. I mean, you look at his photos when he was 40, let's say in the 70s, you saw some class, this kind of classical gentleman and something aristocratic. He had this very low voice. He's actually a baritone bass opera singer, yeah. But also something in his style. Actually, after my 3 games with him and double checking a bit his best games, I understood that nobody evaluates him as it should be. Not even Portis himself. Everybody considers him to be a positional player and not such a good tactician. Portis himself, I took him in an interview in his apartment in Budapest, and he said the same, that he was positional, but unfortunately tactically he was not so good. But of course, nobody can explain. I mean, there is this the myriapod. If you ask the myriapod, how does he coordinate his 1,000 little legs? He would fall at once. He would stumble at once.
Right.
No, you just do it. You cannot explain it.
Right.
And my feeling about Portis is like this. Of course, he has very sound strategic understanding. He's a strategically ambitious player, active. But okay, let's say in a game of chess, the classical view is that, okay, you play by intuition most of the moves, but there are 2 or 3 critical moments when you have to think. And after that, you play another series of 5 or 10 moves just by, okay, you think for a minute and then... but 2 or 3 times you have to have a long thought. And you play against Portis. and he makes a move. And you feel that it's a critical moment. And you stick for 20 minutes, 25, okay. More than 20, it was not recommendable in the old times, even though they had 2.5 hours each for 40 moves and then more. And then you make a move and think, okay, now I will catch up with time because I will play a few quick moves. And then he makes another move, which you didn't expect. And you understand that it's, again, a critical moment. And this sequence can follow for 5 or 6 moves. And you are likely to get depressed because you don't guess his moves. And you spend a lot of time on each of these 5 critical moves. And you are exhausted, depressed, and in time trouble. So I think that he had some sort of permanent brain, always calculating. I think he was calculating precisely, only that he would not play adventure chess. Sometimes he did. But he would also be, I had this feeling when he beat me in 92 at the Manila Olympiad. He chose an opening. Okay, of course, his repertoire was very wide, but I understood that he chose the most unpleasant opening for me. And there was something on his face when he was making his moves. It was already not that aristocratic gentleman. It was just like some guy who said, I'm cheating with you, and you know it, and I know it, and you'll fall for it. Here's some, like Bruce Willis, Bruce Willis' ironic smile. Okay, he was not smiling at me, but there was something like this, his face that he knows that I don't like, and he knows that I know that I got trapped into. So I think he had this move by move and game by game. He would try to face you with some unpleasant surprises. And this was Portage. Then of course Porugaevsky. With Porugaevsky I played only once. Okay, I made a draw with black. Porugaevsky was still rated, I don't know, 26 something. This was 91 probably. So 26 something meant the top 25. Even though he died a few years later, he was still strong, but okay, somehow I managed to draw with black. I don't have such strong impressions from, because we didn't analyze. Only that my boss in the team, Jean-Paul Touzet, the manager of our team, he kept asking me the whole evening, did you really play well, or did he just make a present to you? So I played the top board. I make a draw with the big guy, and we win the match. Why on the earth would you ask me this 10 times? But still, Porugaevsky's Pulu, as they called him. Porugaevsky's image was so big in that moment that, of course, he could not believe that Mihail Marin can make such an easy draw with black against him. No, but Porugaevsky, I think he's the proof that what we call computer chess existed long before computers. Not only his opening analysis, but his calculation. His strengths and weakness were related to the same thing. Okay, first of all, his opening analysis lasting for sometimes 30, 35 moves were they stand up to today.
Wow.
And it's logical chess. There is a famous game with Tal's pawn sacrifice in the center, and then bishop takes h7, everything. Some game against Tora, but okay, there are many. This gambit in the Queen's Indian, fianchetto Queen's Indian, d5, e d5, knight h4, which he started playing against Korchnoi in their match. And he had this approach in the opening, but also if he got out of the opening some logical initiative or whatever, he would play like a machine, move by move, and he would make practically no mistake. He would just kill the opponent. You cannot. Okay, sometimes he would make the second best moves, meaning that it's not the +6 move, but it's the +3.5 move. But we know that it doesnn't matter.
Right.
Somewhere around move 35. Yes. Okay. Why did he not reach the same height as Korchnoi? Because if he didn't get into these scenarios, of course he was a good positional player, but maybe he lost faith a bit. Maybe for him the game of chess was like this: like a bull run, the bull sees red and goes there. But if there is no clear red Korchnoi, of course, he could try here, he could try there, he could set up a trap, he could play psychologically with you. And Korchnoi always said that, okay, everybody can play 20 moves. The strong ones can play 30 moves, good moves. But only I can play 40, 50, 60, or 70 moves, or whatever needed. So for Korchnoi, it was not important to, okay, he would look for the right concept. He would be a maximalist in the critical moments. But he would not be depressed if things did not go his way. He would just keep going. And maybe Polgarevsky was a little bit less of a sportsman than Korchnoi from this. The sportive aspect of chess. He was an artist, he was a scientist, but maybe a little bit less of a sportsman. Then we have Keres, if I'm not wrong. You must understand that I wrote this book some time ago, so there were delays because of the pandemics and everything. But of course there was Keres. Well, Keres was an impressive player. He was also quite good in his annotations. He was some dynamic player. His pieces would be very happy to just dance around. He had also some sound positional base, but very dynamic. Of course, he reached higher positions than Polgarevsky. I think he managed to maximize his qualities better than Polu, so he was more of a player. A bit. Okay, they were all players, but you understand what I say when and there is his comments are generally not bad. Even from the engine's point of view, okay, they can be improved, but not that dramatically. Only sometimes. So who else was it?
Well, I think we have a flavor for the book. So it's going to be the same format as Learn from the Legends, which of course, as the title might suggest, dissects the games of many legends, but sort of looks at a specific angle that someone might not look at on their own.
Yes, and it's not about end games, as in the Legends one. It's more middle games. And yes, I try to extract what is essential from everyone or every player examined there.
That's fantastic. I know a lot of people will be looking forward to that. And getting back to Igor's question, who had asked for which level the Bent Larsen book is, I would just advise listeners that both books are for fairly advanced players, like maybe 1800 plus, but because it's whole games, I do think that even if you're lower rated, you can learn from it. Do you write with a specific audience in mind, Mihail?
Look, when I write a book, even articles, let's say opening articles, of course, it's trickier, no, because the thing you are saying there, it's never ultimate. Yes, it's never definitive. But let's say a book like Larsen. Yes, when I write such a book, first of all, I write it for myself. I want to understand everything what I have, what I'm writing there. And I consider my chess talent, let's say, average for a grandmaster. I think that I have a talent of work. Okay, I also had some native talent, but I think that I tend to understand deep things not so easily. I need to check again and again and again. And I believe that if I explain the things in such a way that I can understand them myself, readers of all levels, of a wide range of levels, have a fair chance to do that too. Because I'm never short of verbal comments. I'm never how would I say? I'm talking now here a lot. There is some question and then I don't remember where I started. So I try to, because for me, understanding something, it means explaining to myself a lot of things, and I write it. And I think it makes it suitable for a wide range of levels. Now, I have never been a fan of numbers. First of all, you must understand that when I got my first international rating, rating started from 2200. So I'm kind of not familiarized. I don't have it in my blood what it means 1800. But I believe that, for instance, there are the tests in the end of the book, which solving quizzes is useful for any level. Actually, my editor, Jacob Agart, once told me, I hope this doesn't sound unmodest, but it was his words. He said that, Mihail, your books are useful for the lower-rated players because you explain everything, and also a pleasant read for the grandmasters, because, of course, they would understand many of those things, but the fact that you explain them like this, it makes the lecture easier for them. It's just like, I hope this is true. Okay, he said this, but from my perspective, I'm an exigent reader of what I'm writing. So if I agree that I understood that, then I repeat, I believe that it should be understandable and helpful for a wide range of players.
Yeah, I definitely think lots of people can. There's just so many beautiful examples and clear explanations. So I agree, but did want to answer the listener Igor's question. And I did want to ask you, Mihail, you also had another book come out this year, Learning Chess with Simagin, A Quest for Beauty, but it's hard to find here in the U.S.
It's hard to find?
In the United States, yeah.
It's hard. Yeah, I believe that, this project was... it was also a pandemic project, I think. Some Spanish amateur wrote me. He wanted to open a publishing house, and this was meant to be his first book.
Okay.
And he asked me, would you like to write a book about Vladimir Simagin? When I heard that, it was good that he could, because I was, like this, only honey on my face.
His face is lighting up, listeners.
I explained there. I had something like almost a mystical, let's say, okay, maybe mystical is a hard word, but some strong emotional experience. I saw some of the games, and then I read his biography, and I compared two pictures of him when young, when he was quite handsome. And when, he died not so old, I don't remember, around 60 he was, or maybe less, I don't remember. No, less. He died during a chess tournament. So there was some tragic in this. The handsome, very, somehow elegant, very classy young man with a brilliant future and everything. And then a man who was already aged and who didn't last for too long, and it was the same person. I kind of saw myself, from the time when I got Olympic medal and qualified for the interzonal, and all the hopes, and then the limits I reached. I couldn't overcross. So, and besides that, Simagin's games are very interesting. Again, I used a book published by him in 50 something with his best games, with his own comments. But then I added a lot of other games, because again, it's like a manual. It's about several things. It's also about his contribution to the opening, which is it's incredibly rich. There are many important systems. He not only the Simagin, the accelerated dragon, as we call it, not only the Simagin.
Of course.
By the way, they call this system with C4 the Maroczy bind, or the Maroczy system. And you know what the funny thing is? It is true that it was played for the first time by Maroczy, but Maroczy was black, and he lost with it.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes history is curious, no?
Right.
And, yes. No, of course, Maroczy was a great player, but somehow this was strange that. Yes, and there is some beauty. Again, Simagin thought of himself that he was a strategist. He started being a tactician when young, but then he very much wanted to say that he was a strategist who would use the tactical, fireworks when everything was prepared for it. And actually, this was what he was doing during his games, obstinately. but his strategic understanding was a bit lower. I mean, he would rarely make tactical mistakes. When he made a combination, very original, very hidden, whatever, even in the end game, it would be most likely correct. But in the strategic fight, he would miss sometimes what would seem like a premature combination. He would not go for a combination because he would not calculate it, because he would think that he still has to, let's say, I have my schedule until move 30, I play strategically, then I start making combinations. It was like he had this schedule. And sometimes actually it was in the logic of the position that if he doesn't do that, he even loses the advantage or gets the worst of it. So strategically, his games are less coherent than from tactical point of view. Actually, he had his intention. But, it's also like, Artur Yusupov once told me that, Steinitz was a much stronger player than Chigorin. But he had such big problems during the matches because he wanted to prove something. He wanted to prove that an attack is almost always wrong with pawn sacrifices. So he lost many games in the Evans Gambit by trying to prove it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, but okay, at least Steinitz was left to us. No, he beat Chigorin after all in both matches, and he's left to us as the guy who started preaching about strategy. He was not right in everything he said, but it made us think that there is such a thing like not only casual combinations, but also some logic, some dialectic of chess. And Simagin, to a certain extent, is the same. No, he was rated. I mean, this posterius rating. I mean, he was one of the top 25 players in the world as a strength. But I don't think he ever played abroad because the Soviets had simply too many. The Soviets didn't need to have 30 players playing abroad. They needed an Olympic team, 6 players who would kill everybody. The others, okay, just play in the Soviet Union. What the rubles are also good to earn as a chess player. I mean, you just stay there in reserve. I mean, okay, you are a good training for our top guys who are going to win the Olympiad year after year. So. But generally, yes, I think, what can I say? If I compare the book on Larsen and the book of Simagin, of course, they are completely different players and also with different sportive achievements. But I cannot say in which book I put more passion. Maybe a bit more in Larsen. Maybe just a bit, but the initial impulse was stronger in Simagin's case.
Okay.
So, and it's also nice that both books, the cover of both books represent paintings made by my wife Maria, especially for this. It's Simagin's and Larsen's portraits.
Yeah, the article I mentioned in Chess Base by Conrad Schorman showed a couple of your wife's paintings, and they're beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's also already 3 or 4 years that maybe 3-4 years. She's only painting chess-related paintings, and she has developed a style which is something like cubism, because she was a classical painter in principle. But then she understood that people like this kind of things. She made an experiment; it was successful, and then she continued on this trend.
And is her work available like in prints? Do you know if people can purchase her artwork?
Well, generally she's selling the paintings by direct contact. I mean, okay, we put them on Facebook, Instagram, we post them. We should also build a site. She had a site at some point, but it doesn't work now. But in principle, it's by direct contact. Sometimes she has exhibitions during the chess tournaments. So basically, if we get an inquiry about a painting, we discuss the price and we ship it. Basically, all over the world. We can ship to the States, to Australia, mainly in Europe. But of course, if it's overseas, it's a bit more expensive, the shipment. So we don't have like an organized system, but I have many followers on Facebook. So most of sometimes, we meet somebody at some tournament, and then he orders some portraits. She made portraits on demand, for instance, and so on. So, but it's more by direct contact.
Okay. And this is WFM Maria Yugina, and I will link to whatever we can find in the notes for listeners.
And also
Mihail,
on my own Facebook page, Mihail Marin, because I and my Instagram. Yeah, I mean, okay, we post like this for visibility. Yes, it's
great.
Of course, on my Facebook there are also pictures with all our animals, 3 dogs and 2 cats.
Okay, glad to hear it. Yeah. Okay, and we had one more listener question. Jonathan Slater is a big fan of your English opening series, and was wondering if you think it will ever be on Chessable, or if you would do another English opening series for Chessable potentially.
Actually, I wrote these 3 volumes for which is in printed book for Quality Chess, and then it was a tough task to record 2 DVDs for ChessBase, because I would not just choose the same variations and say the same things, even if updated and a bit improved the variations. I would not do that because it's not fair. I mean,
right.
So I had to 75% of the variation of the systems are different. It's not that they are better or worse than what I advocate in the books, but the English opening is, for instance, after C4, E5, G3, G6, all these closed system. You can go E4 and 92. You can go Rook B1. You can go Knight F3. You can go E3 and 92. So you cannot say which is best.
Right.
So for in such cases, I have always chosen a different system for the DVDs. But there is a 25% of the systems which are the same, and there I strongly updated and corrected some of the inaccuracies in the books. So now doing it for Chessable, the third thing, of course, it would be really tough, because some lines you can really not. You don't have alternatives if you want. There are some systems, like for instance against the Slav setup, the Queen's Gambit setup. There is more or less the same system that is keeping White's chances for initiative alive. So not so sure. Actually, I had other plans with Chessable. Last year, I helped Judit. Actually, I was as a co-author to record her 3 endgame. I don't know how do you call them, DVDs or courses.
Right.
So I'm practically co-author of her. Now we had some other plan with Chessable. I should contact them again. Yes, actually, I can tell you what it is about. I came with the idea, what if we take the period between 72, Reykjavik, and 81? In 72, I was 7, and in 81, I was already 16. So it's my childhood and big part of the teenage. Is the chess I have been seeing flowing below my eyes, in front of my eyes, yes? It's the chess that made me a chess player. Mm-hmm. And I want to pick up the very best of those years, no matter of sometimes unknown players played very good games. Unknown, I mean, for us today. And to be like tactics, strategy, and endgame, something like that. But to pick the very best, of course, everything has to be 100% approved by the engines. But to show that, my idea is to show that the mental strength should not be underestimated. Because there is this thing, what I said about Polugaevsky. Mm-hmm. Computer chess existed before, machine chess existed before the computers. There are people able to create that, to calculate. And
that's fascinating. Yeah. Does anyone else come to mind besides Polugaevsky that played in that style?
Well, we have a guy from an older generation. It's Alyekhin. I know that the English speaking people frequently call him Alakain, but actually in English, in Russian, it was Alyekhin. There are some people even in Russia who call him Alyoshin. The question is, how do you spell the E? If you put 2 dots on it, then it's Alyoshin. If you don't put them, then it's Alyekhin. And the problem is that in written Russian, they put the dots when the case is only in the books for children, and otherwise they don't put it. But Alyekhin, the way we see it spelled now in ChessBase, for instance, it's the transcription of his name to French, because he became a French. He defected to France. So this makes me think that still the version Alyechin is more correct than Alyoshin. So, okay, now that it's clear about whom we are talking, yes, Alexander Alyechin.
That's good. But yeah, it's good for me to know as a podcast host. So thank you.
Yes, no, because I assume that from the point of view of English language, it's Alakain, probably is the correct way to pronounce it if you see this spelling.
Well, we know it's not correct, but people just say it anyway.
Okay. So anyway, there are pieces. Of course, at that time, there are many things which are imperfect in games. Yes, but Alechin, he sometimes had some this computer like precision, and not only precision but also moves you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
And maybe the most stunning example is a game against Öve during their first match. Alechin lost that match, but he started brilliantly. He was leading with 6-3 after 9 games, and he was taking risks in some French with d takes e4. I mean, open center. He played g4, g5 somehow, which is of course a bit exaggerated. But then he got a very interesting position, attacking position, and then at the critical moment, Öve goes for the queen exchange, and he just gets killed in the end game. And Alechin writes, okay, what a pity that Öve didn't play queen c2 here. And then he starts analyzing, and it's an incredible. It's one of the best piece of analysis ever done. I mean, if we exclude the computers.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 3 in all these lines which are not so easy to evaluate and calculate. There are 3 clear computer moves. I mean, moves which if you see them today, you say, oh, of course, but with computers. No, but he didn't have a computer unless he was not a refugee from Russia, from Soviet Union, but a spy. And unless they gave him a computer to spy over the West. And he used the computer for chess analyzing. Of course, this is a joke. But of course, in 20-something and 30, in the 20s and 30s, there was nothing similar to the computer Yes, yet there are these. Of course, not all of his comments are 100% accurate, but he had something like machine thinking. Well, then if we think of, well, of course, Fischer was very precise. Actually, when he got this kind of position, he would master. I mean, with a slight advantage, but when he knew what he had to do, he was to play very, very accurate chess, both positional and concrete chess. That was, but let's say Fischer is not the first example I would give, because okay, whatever Fischer did was so clear that even the opponents enjoyed. I mean, they knew how the game would end, but they could not change the course. Somehow it was so like a baby smile, no, as Fischer used to say. But with kinds of and Fischer, Fischer. How did he beat Spassky? Actually, Fischer was analyzing a lot, and Suetin wrote that Fischer is reading the Soviet literature, chess literature, dedicated more time to read it than the whole Soviet Olympic team together. So he knew everything what was written by the Soviets, and he would analyze it and correct things. But in the opening, he did not have such a deep understanding as Geller. Geller really could come with the truth, that thing which is really the truth. If he tried to do that over the board, it was, like, don't try this at home. He would finally manage to do it, but it would cost him 1 hour 1.5 hours on the clock. And many times he would not have the time and energy to win the game as deserved. And okay, Geller was Spassky's second in 1972. And Fischer got caught only twice in the opening. But actually after game 4, he understood that he should not play with Geller. He should play with Spassky. And he started to just dance through Spassky's opening repertoire. And Fischer, who was known to play the same openings of all his life, he started playing new openings. Okay, the Alechin defense he had been playing a few times, but nobody would have thought seriously that he would play during the World Championship match. And he played it twice and scored 1.5 points out of 2. So I don't know how we came. Yeah, okay. It was about correctness and the machine. And I think that Geller was in the opening, Geller was better than the machine, better than most of the
That's amazing.
Guys. Of course, the machines would confirm nowadays his. There is this strange thing. Timan wrote a book on the match in '73, I believe. It was published only in Dutch, and then I don't know how many decades later he republished it in English, and he added some things. Sometimes some of his games with Geller on the variations played in the match. Even if there were games Timan lost. There is one exception where he doesn't add anything. It's the first game where Fischer played c4. It was a Queen's Gambit. The Tata cover, Spassky's trusted weapon. And then Fischer plays against Spassky himself. He plays this bishop b5, which was used by Furman to defeat Bondarevsky, who was the former second of Spassky. And the game was 1 or 2 years old. And Spassky reacted in the same way as Bondarevsky, the first move or maybe two, and got into a worse position, and then Fischer just killed him brilliantly. The fact is that apparently Geller knew how to react against bishop b5, and some people wrote about that queen b7 was the correct. It was a pawn sacrifice. Apparently he had told to Spassky that this is the move. It's not clear whether Spassky didn't trust him or didn't remember it during the game. But the fact is that Timan said that, but okay, what is this queen b7? And he analyzes it for quite a while, and he concludes that white is clearly better. And his variations are correct, only that after white takes the pawn, he doesn't analyze the main candidate, which is knight a6, a developing move, inviting to a position where apparently white has a good knight against a bad bishop and an extra pawn. But actually, white is close to trouble there. And Geller won against Timan. They met, yes, over the board, and Geller beat Timan in a brilliant game. And Timan doesn't say anything about this in the older edition, because it was probably too painful for him to think of that. Okay, the fact is that the fact that he lost one Alekhine game against Geller in the same variation as played in the game, as in the match, was not so painful for him, because okay, it was just a game. But here he had analyzed the position and he had not thought of this knight a6. That's the point. He doesn't say anything. He keeps the old analysis showing that queen b7 is no good. So it might have been some lapsus, mental lapsus. I don't know how the Latins would call it. Not lapsus manus, but lapsus intellectualus. Yes. But it was clear that he wanted to block that thing. He wanted to get rid of it. And I can understand it. Geller was very deep in opening, and okay, over the board too, but he was slow, like myself. I mean, until he understood the truth, he would spend 1 or 1.5 hours. So even some games he lost could be instructive from the point of view of the critical moment when he finds the truth, and he goes that way. But then I said that, okay, maybe Korchnoi was not on lower level than him, but he was more of a player, nevertheless, Korchnoi. The fighting spirit, I don't know, because Geller, of course, he was quite high in the hierarchy, and he has many masterpieces, but still Korchnoi is something you cannot see each century. If you see such a guy once in a century, then you are happy.
Yeah,
I mean, the depth of his thoughts and the variety of his style. He could play any opening with any color, any kind of position, attack, defense, play endgame tactics, attacks, strategy, and his persistence to play chess over the age of 80. Always dangerous for anybody.
Yeah.
For anybody. I mean, you understand?
Stressful, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, Mihail, this has been fantastic. So much fun just to hear you talk about all of learning about all the legends from you. So I greatly appreciate it. I'm sure there's even more to learn from you. So maybe we can do this again sometime in the future.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation and for your kind words. For me, I mean, I love chess. I mean, I'm not Korchnoi, but I love chess, and I'm blessed now with my wife Maria, who believes in chess. Okay, she's a painter, but she's also a FIDE master, and she also loves chess. And she helps me sometimes. Even I show her a game. I said, okay, do you think this game would fit into the article, or maybe we should take this one because I'm sometimes I'm subjective. So my wife Maria helps me keeping my life tracked on chess. And of course, talking about chess is always inspiring. Sometimes when I'm talking, I learn something from myself.
Right.
I mean, things I just talk about and then said, maybe it's because of this, and something I never thought before. So I hope only it wasn't too boring, because I know
No, definitely not.
I tend to talk a lot.
No, it's fascinating, and so I'll be sure to link to your books. And you mentioned you have a Facebook page, and I know you're on Twitter a little bit. What is the best way for listeners to keep up with your work, Mihail?
Actually, I think that it's best on Facebook. Actually, okay. I have neglected posting my latest books. I think I didn't post Larsen, or maybe I did. Also, I should make an update to the DVDs and books. I mean, on my page, okay, you can see our traveling around by car in Europe, thousands and thousands of kilometers, our animals, but also Maria's paintings, and some of my books. But okay, I should make an update on that, on the books. Good that you talked about it.
Yes, well, it was my pleasure. They're fantastic books, and I look forward to more. I know you stay busy, so I'm sure there's more to look forward to.
Thank you a lot.
Thanks to everyone who helps make Perpetual Chess possible. Big shout out to my producer, Matthew Passy. I'd also like to thank the Blue Wire Podcast Network, with whom we are proud to be affiliated. Be sure to follow us on social media, Beneficial1 on Twitter, at Perpetual Chess on Instagram, or you can join the Perpetual Chess Facebook group. You can email me, ben@perpetualchesspod.com. And of course, last but not least, I'd like to give major thanks to the Perpetual Chess Patreon and PayPal supporters. Those who choose to join that community based on their level of support can do things like submit questions for guests of the show, have access to live Zoom Q&A lectures with grandmasters who often have appeared on the show, going over chess games, answering questions, stuff like that. And you can even get access to ad-free Perpetual Chess if that's your preference. So, but most of all, thanks to everyone for listening, and we will catch you all on